country as well. What is your message to them?
My message is one, I'm also young. By the way, what drives me is the reality is that in a lifetime you need a doctor twice or three times in a year. You need a lawyer once.
Today I bring you a story that will make you pause, blink twice, and ask yourself, did I hear that correctly? You did. And what you are about to hear is as real as the beating of your own heart. Captain Ibrahim, the bold and unyielding leader of Burkina Faso, the man who has stood toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces of neocolonialism and refused to bend, has just done something so unusual, so unconventional, that it has left both his friends and enemies scrambling to make sense of it. He has released 1 million rabbits into the desert. Yes, 1 million rabbits. And before you laugh, before you dismiss this as strange or absurd, listen to me closely. Because if you have learned anything about Captain, by now it is that nothing he does is random. Every move he makes is deliberate. Every action is a stroke in a much larger painting, a painting of African sovereignty, African resilience, and African victory. And this, my brothers and sisters, might just be one of his most brilliant moves yet. You see, the world is quick to mock African ideas when they do not fit neatly into the frameworks of Western development. They laughed at us when we spoke of African satellites, African-built fighter jets, and African-made cars. They mocked us when we dared to talk about breaking the CFA francs chains. They even called our revolutions childish dreams until those dreams became unshakable realities. And now they laugh at rabbits in the desert. But they do not understand the mind of a man who can turn what the world sees as insignificant into a weapon of economic and ecological transformation. So what's the plan? Why would a leader release such a staggering number of animals into one of the harshest environments on Earth? Because he is not just thinking about rabbits. He is thinking about land. He is thinking about food. He is thinking about water, about the livelihoods of rural communities, and about turning Africa's so-called dead spaces into engines of life and wealth. He is thinking of the Sahel, that vast stretch of land that has been steadily swallowed by desertification for decades, and he is daring to fight it in a way no one saw coming. To the untrained eye, a desert is barren, but to a visionary, a desert is sleeping land waiting for life to return, and in the mind of these 1 million rabbits are not just animals, they are ecological soldiers. They will move, they will graze, they will fertilize, they will spread seeds from drought-resistant plants already being cultivated in secret government projects. They will trigger a chain reaction in the land, and once the green begins to return, so will the people. Farming will rise where sand once ruled. Markets will emerge where there was nothing but dust. And in time, the land itself will become a source of economic independence. This, my friends, is why the West fears him. Because what he is doing here is more than a local environmental project, it is a declaration of war against the narrative that Africa is helpless against climate change, helpless against poverty, helpless without foreign aid. By using one of the simplest, most overlooked animals on Earth, is showing that Africa does not need to wait for salvation. We can build our own solutions, and sometimes the most powerful weapons are the ones nobody takes seriously. And yet this move is not without strategy beyond ecology. The rabbits themselves will become a source of food and industry. Their meat, rich in protein, will nourish communities. Their fur will feed local leather and textile industries. Their multiplication, because rabbits multiply quickly, will ensure sustainability. It is an economic and environmental two-in-one strike, designed to last for generations, not just election cycles. But here is the part that should make every African sit up straight. This is not about Burkina Faso alone. If it works, this model can be replicated across the Sahel, across North Africa, even across semi-arid regions in southern Africa. Imagine entire stretches of land, once written off as useless, brought back to life by an African idea, owned by African hands, serving African people. Imagine the humiliation of those who have made billions from our dependency when they see us feed ourselves with what they mocked as impossible. So I say to you, do not be distracted by the laughter in foreign headlines. Do not let the simplicity of the rabbit blind you to the complexity of the plan. Captain Ibrahim has shown time and again that liberation comes from those willing to take risks others fear. And now the desert will test him, but the desert will also bear witness to a new chapter in Africa's fight for self-reliance. Because if he succeeds, these 1 million rabbits will not just change the land, they will change the future.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Brothers and sisters of Africa, and to all listening across the great African diaspora and beyond, I bring to you a story so unusual, so unexpected, that when it first reached my desk, I read it twice, thinking it must be satire. But the more I read, the more I listened to sources inside Burkina Faso, the more I realized that this is not a joke. It is not a publicity stunt. It is not the kind of strange headline the world mocks for a few days and then forgets. No, this is something far more calculated, far more strategic, and far more powerful than anyone outside of Captain Ibrahim Traoré's inner circle could have imagined. The story is this: Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader who has shaken the foundations of neo-colonial control in West Africa, has just overseen the release of 1 million rabbits into the desert. Yes, you heard that right. 1 million rabbits into the desert. And the question on the lips of analysts from Paris to Beijing, from Washington to Johannesburg, is the same. Why? We have learned by now that with Captain Ibrahim Traoré, nothing is accidental. This is the man who defied ECOWAS threats without blinking, who tore up lopsided mining contracts signed under colonial pressure, who built alliances with other anti-imperialist leaders even while Western media labeled him a dangerous populist. This is the man who has made a habit of turning Africa's so-called weaknesses into weapons of strength. And so, when a man like that releases 1 million rabbits into one of the harshest environments on Earth, we must assume he is not simply playing with nature. He is playing with the very chessboard of African survival and sovereignty. To understand this move, we must first take a step back. We must remember the geography of Burkina Faso, a nation that straddles the Sahel, where desert and savanna meet in a fragile balance. For decades, the creeping advance of the desert, the process known as desertification, has eaten away at farmland, dried up water sources, and displaced entire communities. It is a problem not just for Burkina Faso, but for Mali, Niger, Chad, Sudan, and many other nations along the Sahel belt. Foreign donors have made speeches about it. Aid agencies have drafted projects about it. Billions have been pledged, yet the desert continues its slow, merciless march southward. But what if, instead of waiting for foreign solutions that never come, an African nation could fight back on its own terms? What if we could turn the desert from a symbol of death into a breeding ground for life? This, my brothers and sisters, is where the rabbits come in. The idea began, I am told, with an observation from a group of Burkinabe agricultural scientists and ecologists who had been studying ecosystem restoration in arid lands. They noted that in certain parts of the world, controlled introduction of small, fast-breeding herbivores had accelerated the recovery of desertified areas not by destroying vegetation as some might think, but by stimulating plant growth, spreading seeds through their droppings, fertilizing the soil, and attracting predators whose presence further balanced the ecosystem. But in those experiments, the scale was always limited. A few hundred animals here, a few thousand there. Captain Traoré looked at this data and asked a question that no one else dared. What if we did it at a scale so massive it would alter the desert itself? What if we didn't release a few thousand rabbits, but 1 million? And what if this was only the beginning? His advisors were stunned. Some warned it was too risky. Rabbits breed quickly. Without control, they could overrun fragile areas. Others worried about the logistics, how to breed, transport, and monitor so many animals. But Traoré saw the potential beyond the fear. He saw an opportunity to turn an ecological experiment into an economic revolution. Because the rabbits were not just for the soil, they were for the people. Here is how the plan works. The rabbits are being released in carefully mapped zones of semi-arid desert where the government has already planted drought-resistant shrubs and grasses. These plants, many of them native to the Sahel, struggle to spread naturally in degraded land. But with rabbits nibbling, fertilizing, and moving constantly, their seeds are dispersed over wide areas. Within 2 or 3 seasons, vegetation can return to places long written off as dead. This vegetation then supports other species, goats, antelopes, birds, restoring a chain of life. At the same time, communities near these zones are given the right to trap a regulated number of rabbits for meat and fur, creating a new local economy. The meat is rich in protein, healthier than many industrial meats, and the fur can be used in clothing production or sold abroad for additional income. In short, the desert becomes farmland, the farmland becomes a market, and the market becomes a foundation for independence. And this is where the genius of the plan reveals itself. Most of the desert in Burkina Faso and its neighbors has been abandoned as useless by foreign investors. They do not see profit in sand and wind. But if the land becomes green again, if it supports livestock and crop cycles, its value skyrockets, and it does so under African ownership, without a single foreign hand controlling the process. Traoré knows that this will not happen overnight. He knows it will take years of work, years of adaptation. But he also knows that the journey of liberation is not measured in months. It is measured in generations. Already, Western media has begun to spin the story. They call it bizarre, eccentric, a publicity stunt. They want the world to laugh, because laughter is a weapon. If they can make Africa doubt its own leaders, if they can make us feel foolish for trying something new, they can kill the revolution before it blooms. But I say this to you. When they laugh, it means we are on to something they did not predict. And when they did not predict it, they cannot control it. Some have asked why 1 million? Why not 10,000? Why not 50,000? The answer lies in scale. Desertification is not a small problem. It covers millions of square kilometers. A token gesture will not reverse it. Traoré's philosophy is that if you are going to solve a problem, you must attack it with such force, such scale, that the problem itself is shocked into retreat. 1 million rabbits means rapid impact. It means visible change in a few years, not decades. It means that by the time foreign critics realize it is working, Africa will already own the method and the results. But there is another layer to this strategy, one that has Western analysts whispering in policy rooms. You see, rabbits are not just ecological tools, they are symbols of rapid multiplication. Traoré has begun using the rabbit as a metaphor in his speeches to rural youth. Multiply like the rabbit, in your numbers, in your ideas, in your enterprises. He is planting a mindset that growth, expansion, and resilience can come from the smallest of beginnings if pursued relentlessly. And just as a single rabbit pair can produce hundreds of offspring in a year, a single good idea, shared and replicated, can produce hundreds of businesses, hundreds of solutions, hundreds of leaders. Economically, the plan is already showing ripples. The Ministry of Agriculture has reported that farmers near the first release zones are organizing co-ops to process rabbit meat for local markets. Leather workers are experimenting with rabbit fur products for sale in Ouagadougou and beyond. Veterinarians are being trained in mass breeding techniques, creating a new generation of animal husbandry experts. And because rabbits require relatively little water compared to cattle, they are perfectly suited for arid environments where other livestock cannot thrive. Of course, challenges remain. Predators will need to be reintroduced or protected to keep rabbit populations in check. Overgrazing must be avoided through careful rotation. But unlike foreign solutions that depend on expensive imported machinery or chemicals, this solution is alive, adaptable, and powered by the land itself. It is African in its origin, African in its execution, and African in its benefits. Brothers and sisters, I tell you this. The world will not understand this plan until it is too late for them to stop it. They will not see the greening of the Sahel until satellite images force them to admit it is real. They will not see the economic independence it brings until Burkina Faso begins exporting desert-grown produce and locally processed goods to markets across Africa. And when they finally see it, they will claim they saw it coming all along. But we will know the truth, that it was born from the mind of a leader who saw a life where others saw emptiness and who refused to let the laughter of his enemies dictate the destiny of his people. So let us take this lesson to heart. Whether your village grows cocoa or coffee, whether your city runs on oil or on trade, remember that liberation often hides in the most unexpected of places. For Burkina Faso, it is 1 million rabbits in the desert. For you, it may be something else entirely. The question is, will you have the courage to pursue it when the world calls you crazy? And so I end with this. The desert is not dead. It sleeps. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré has just sent 1 million messengers to wake it up. The wind will carry their scent. The soil will feel their touch. And the people will see the green return. This is not madness. This is vision. And vision, when backed by courage, is unstoppable.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.